Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another video. This time, I'm here to talk about the Archaludon suspect, which went live almost a week ago now. However, yesterday I was going to record this video. However, Pokemon Showdown was down and I could not record the way I wanted to with some actual gameplay. Um, so yeah, this suspect was in response to a survey that took place recently, in which respondents heavily uh, responded that they would prefer some form of Archaludon action. Most likely a suspect test here, as we see the red and the blue combined for over 72%. 72% of people wanting, at the very minimum, a suspect on this Pokemon. However, I found it was interesting that the the red was far bigger than the blue, right? There was a lot more people that are saying it might be broken than were pretty much definitive about it, right? Um, and you can see this both ways with various elements. But yeah, so we did get the suspect test, which I'm glad that we did. This is probably what we've heard the most about the last few months in regards to Tyrion action. Um, to be honest, personally, I'm not exactly convinced this is very broken. But we'll just run through here the suspect post, and I'll give my thoughts, and we'll play a few ladder games. I got Rex a few days ago, but I've been lazy and haven't posted them because I wanted to make this video. Um, so yeah, just be a brief overview here, in case you're not really familiar with DOU as a metagame. Um, so basically, this tier has kind of stabilized a bit after having two pretty big bans. Fluttermane was the big one, but then we got DOA shortly after, which really shook up the metagame. And when Fluttermane was being suspected, there was a lot of people being like, if you suspect Flutter, you get rid of Flutter, all the dragons will be too strong, blah blah blah. Um, and to be quite frank with you, that hasn't really been the case. But we do see that Archaludon is a pretty prominent part of the metagame. So yeah, got here most of the reasoning for why this is being suspected. It's pretty much due to having stamina, um, and basically raising its defense stat every time it gets hit by a move. Combined with the other excellent toolkit it has, good stats. However, held back by its fact that it has pretty minimal SPDF. Um, It's like 65 or something, which makes it a lot easier to hit on that side, giving it some counterplay, right? Um, Electro Shot, basically Meteor Beam that charges automatically in Rain. Pretty broken move. However, Rain is in my opinion, not exactly the easiest to always set up, right? Um, so this Pokemon is obviously very strong. It's like a tier 2 Pokemon. Has other sets as well besides Rain. We think Iron sets a little bit. However, with that said, it has to contend with the fact that it doesn't have stab body press, so it doesn't hit as hard as say something like Komodo, which I would argue is better at actually doing the body pressing. Um, I think what makes this Pokemon very strong is the ability to just passively get those stamina boosts. Devoting a move slot to Iron Defense is a little silly in my opinion. Um, AV is probably what I'd say is the best set. I've seen lefties some, um, but AV just kind of patches up its one problem. Fits well on Rain, which allows it to use a variety of moves, body press, flash cannon, dragon pulse, in addition to the Rain move, right? Um, so I think the way I want to frame my opinion on this is primarily in the context of the ability stamina, right? Um, this is an ability that I think Archaludon pushes the limits of whether it makes it broken, right? Um, Stamina, it's a pretty simple ability, right? You get hit by any attack, your defense goes up one stage. Which on the face of it, it's just one stat boost. However, the broad applicability is really what makes this ability strong, right? This isn't justified where you got to get hit by a dark type move to raise your attack. Anytime you hit this, it gets harder to knock out, pretty much. And this is a kind of the ability previously was only on Bedsdale, which, let's be honest, was never exactly impressing anyone with its competitive viability. Um, so this is the strongest Pokemon we've ever had stamina with by a long shot. And stamina falls into a certain category of like a build of like parts of this game that they've added recently. Stamina originally a Gen 7 ability, right? But there's this kind of things we've seen lately that when a Pokemon gets hit by something or blah blah blah, it gets stronger, right? And what I'm just going to broadly label these as are moves that, or I can't even say moves, but like Pokemon that get stronger just because you tried to play the game, right? So the foremost example of this would be Annihilate, right? And Rage Fist. Every time you damage this, it got plus 50 power on its Rage Fist and it just blow things up. And this Pokemon was just incredibly centralizing. There were other elements that made it pretty broken too. The typing, primarily the stats, allowed it to just be absurdly broken and bulky. But this is the kind of thing, right? You damage Annihilate with a light attack, um, it gets stronger, it hits you back harder, right? And so stamina plus body press is very similar in some ways, right? We do more damage and your money to knock out just when we've been hit by an attack, right? Um, so this is not as broken as say like Rage Fist, which was A, stab, B, did not leave when you switched, right? Um, so this is by itself weaker. However, Archaludon is still very fundamentally similar to Annihilate in that respect, I think. It really punishes you for like taking light attacks, which is not really element of the game that I really think is like I kind of disagree with the decision to add stuff like that, right? I think it's far more balanced when the only thing like you're being punished by hitting something with a light attack is that they take like 0 damage, right? Um, so I mean it's cool and it sometimes makes things that are enjoyable to play against, but it's at the end of the day I'm not entirely sure how healthy that is. However, I do think inherently this stamina body press is a lot more competitive than Annihilate Rage Fist. However, what Archaludon has that Annihilate doesn't have is um, well, it has good stats, similarly to Annihilate. However, it does have more to work with, right? It's hitting harder with its Dracos, etc., than um, Annihilate is with things. It has higher defense, right? Um, but most importantly, I think is the typing, right? Steel Dragon is, in my opinion, a superior defensive typing to Fighting Ghost. Fighting Ghost is excellent offensively, don't get me wrong, but defensively, Steel Dragon is really like the perfect kind of typing to really take advantage of stamina. And so this is where it gets really interesting to me. I think I fundamentally like disagree with like this kind of design where it just gets stronger just when you play the game. Last respect, same category, right? Um, both of these are far, far stronger again than Archaludon, right? But I do think the fundamental idea here is the same. Um, and I have no doubt they'll add stuff like this in future generations, right? Um, and so I'm just like a bit skeptical of this kind of design from a balance perspective. I do think like obviously the fact that you switch out it goes away is very, very helpful. I mean, you did that to Annihilate, it would go a long way to like make Rage Fist more balanced, right? If Rage Fist didn't stack every time you switched out, right? Um, but this all goes to say that I do think this is already the kind of thing that makes me like think, okay, this could be broken, right? The question is whether it's actually. I think it's on the edge. I don't think it's explicitly broken because there's a lot of things that deal with it. Lando Eye, the Spadef stat really holds it back, right? If you swap this attack in Spadef, this Pokemon would just be obscene. Um, but with this Spadef stat, it really like limits what you can do with your EVs, especially in a doubles context where you often have to be like a lot more careful. This can't really get away with just dumping it in defense or something. You're going to take special damage, um, and that's going to punish you a lot. So like Lando Eye in particular is what punishes it. Let's see if they have anything else listed here. Um, yeah, Sacred Sword from Shen Pao. That does help. However, that doesn't really do a lot. Chi-Yu, Blood Moon, Regidrago. Yes, they all help threaten it. So it's mostly special counterplay, right? Um, However, while this Pokemon does have flaws, the question is really like, is it broken, right? Um, I think I just don't think it's quite there, right? I don't think it's like strong enough. We don't really see it enough on things that are not rain to really convince you that it's broken. Um, and simply like it's a lot harder to get value out of it outside of rain, in my opinion. And then when you're forced to run rain, you're like, that's not exactly the easiest thing to do. You really have to commit to that. Um, so it's a lot more difficult to commit to like setting this thing up as it is to like annihilate, just to use that comparison some more. Um, and so I think that's really what prevents it in my eyes from really being over the top. However, we'll be playing a few games with this team here, designed to kind of focus around Archaludon along with a few other things, and see if we can get any more ideas here. So I do think like stamina is a little bit uncompetitive on such a good Pokemon. I don't think it's quite there to like to ban it. Um, there is counterplay. It's like I don't know. I'm glad they got the suspect. I'm very curious where the vote's going to come on this. I do think like the ban vote will probably be in the minority, but I don't really know. And I really wouldn't be upset if this was gone. It's just like I don't really see the point. I think the metagame's doing decently right now. I can see on the survey most people are indicating this as well. Although this doesn't really say much because it looks like this every time, no matter how bad the metagame is. But yeah. So I don't really think this is life or death for the metagame here. The metagame's doing generally well. Um, so I'm curious what it's going to come down to. Personally, I think I'm going to vote do not ban. But I can really see both sides here. So yeah, with that, we'll just take a look at some of the things people have posted in this thread. Zern here. This is a very good post that I mostly agree with. Strong Snowball Mon requires significant support. Yes, the support factor is really, in my opinion, what pulls this back. Right, it's not as easy to support as some of the other more broken Pokemon we've had. Blah blah blah. Weather. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, so this post is generally just saying there's ways to play around it. It's not that bad. And then he rounds this off by saying he doesn't really think anything is ban worthy, right? Yeah, I generally agree with this post. It's just not really damaging the metagame, in my personal opinion, to the extent that it's ban worthy, right? There's counterplay. It's not as splashable. If it was more splashable, it would be probably more problematic, right? Yeah, good post here. All right, and then Sunday's here with a post about the Spaffer team. This team probably done more than anything to like push forward the ban Archaludon narrative. Because this is the one team in the format that really has dedicated the entire team to supporting it. Kind of like we saw with Annihilate in the past. Albeit this is in a very different way. It uses the Spaffer baton pass. And this team has its flaws, right? Could be a little bit weak to positional tools, but when you don't have things like Fake Out, Taunt, etc., it can be very, very difficult to actually beat. You baton pass to the Archaludon, it becomes unkillable. That's your win con. And then you also have Lando here, just because Lando moment. So yeah, this is an interesting post here talking about how this team is just like very, very stupid, which I agree with. It's kind of just a very effective like matchup fishing team, but I don't think this is quite enough to really ban it. Just one team. The thing is, this is the only team I've seen that like actually goes out of its way to like support the broken Pokemon, supposedly broken Pokemon, right? And I think that's just a testament to how difficult it is to actually like commit to that, right? As we see here, we've got double Fake Out, we've got a Spot Red, we've got Rain. Like all of those are to help Archaludon, and to a lesser extent Lando, but Archaludon is really the star of the show here. I'll just watch this replay. Let's see if Showdown decides to load. All right. I wonder what this was for. It seems like a tournament game. PSPL maybe? I'm not sure. As we see the Archaludon, the Spaffer having a moment here. uh, getting multiple boosts, passing it to Archaludon. The Archaludon just has a moment. um, and yeah, this is kind of when you see a Pokemon with this many boosts on your screen, this is kind of what makes people clamor about this Pokemon, right? Um, but I do think, right, there's ways to play around this. As you see, this team only has one Fake Out Mon. It isn't exactly the most poised to beat it. However, we do see it overwhelm the counterplay of Landorus here with the Terra. So this is definitely a decent replay. However, by itself, I don't think teams like this are really. There's just this one team by itself. I don't think is enough to ban it. That's the TLDR.